You think a government budget is just domestic politics? Wrong. In the market's eyes, it's an instant credibility exam. The UK proved in 48 hours that a single budget can get a country graded like a stock. Fail the test, and you crash on the spot. Picture yourself standing on the edge of the bond market cliff. Every tick higher in yields is the government's funding cost bleeding faster. Pension fund models start screaming. Margin call alerts fall like snow. Money doesn't disappear. It simply withdraws from trust, and it withdraws faster than your news notifications. The official story sounded beautiful. Cut taxes, boost growth, bet on the future. It played like a startup pitch. But the market wasn't moved by the growth narrative. It reacted like someone tossed a match into a gasoline tank. Why? Because the truth isn't in slogans. It's in 3 words. Who pays for it? When you promise big tax cuts without a credible fiscal path, the market doesn't hear growth. It hears, I might not be able to repay. When a government starts budgeting with hope, the market responds by sentencing it with interest rates. The dirty secret is, this wasn't just market mood. A structural trigger got pulled, called a liquidity spiral. When long-term gilt yields spike, prices collapse, and some pension funds' low-risk strategies blow up first, especially those using derivatives to hedge interest rate exposure. Yields jump, margin requirements jump. Margin calls hit, funds need cash. To raise cash, they sell what's easiest to sell, often the gilts themselves. So you get a self-accelerating loop. Yields up to margin calls up to forced selling up to bond prices down to yields up again. You think the market is simply hating the government. In reality, the market structure is stampeding in self-preservation. And the truly insane part? When the so-called safest asset starts breaking, you realize there's no real safety in the system, only faster liquidation. The consequences arrived fast and felt absurd. Gilt yields rise, mortgage rates surge, and loan quotes get repriced overnight like seasonal discount tags. The pound weakens, import costs climb, inflation shadows deepen. But the sharpest sting was this. Pension funds almost blew up sounds like a joke, until you realize it happened. You thought your retirement money was quietly growing. Instead, behind the curtain, it was forced into a margin survival game. And the market did what it does best. It didn't explain. It just printed prices. Prices said, I don't trust you. Prices said, I need higher yields to compensate. Prices also said, if you keep pretending, I'll keep selling. Then came the peak of disaster moment. Authorities had to step in, not for pride, but to stop the spiral from snapping the system in half. The market was basically asking, are you a government or just a panicked borrower? When the central bank announced emergency intervention and began buying long-dated gilts, you could feel that humiliating quiet in the air. It wasn't victory. It was a tourniquet. Not resolution, resuscitation. Don't treat this as British gossip, because the way markets judge governments eventually becomes the way they judge your wallet. The hidden lesson of those 48 hours is a brutal rule. Once credibility gets priced, a country starts paying a credibility premium. Higher yields mean heavier debt interest. Heavier interest means less fiscal room. Less fiscal room means tighter public services and nastier fights over taxes and welfare. For ordinary people, it shows up in plain language, more expensive mortgages, tougher business financing, more fragile pensions, harder living costs. You think a budget is a political promise. The market translates it into one line. Do you have the cash flow to deserve your story? So here's the gut punch conclusion. In the bond market's eyes, even a government is just a giant borrower. You can sell a vision, but first, you must protect your credit. Next episode will go darker. When markets can sentence a government in 48 hours, who's really holding the steering wheel in a democracy, the ballot or the yield? Don't blink.